Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to go through in depth a little bit more one of the most important things in the golf swing, and that's how you're taking the club back. And over the last sort of years of teaching, some of the main faults I've seen at the start of the backswing, and I'm going to go into depth of sort of some drills to work on those and why that could happen and why it's so important to take the club back, especially in the first little bit of the swing, in an efficient way. That's going to really set you up for the rest of the swing. And if you're off there, it's going to be a lot harder. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth today into that, based on some of the feedback I've gotten on the channel. People want a little bit more on the points. I try to keep my videos typically pretty short and to the point. Today we're going to look to expand the topic a little bit more, so hang in with me here. We're going to go a little bit deeper, and we're going to look at specifically how we can, for me, one of the most important things in the swing is how we're taking the club away and setting you up for success for the rest of the swing. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit that notifications button to make sure that you're getting notified when I'm putting up videos. Trying to be a little more consistent and keep you guys up to date on some of the things that I'm paying attention to when I'm teaching players, and how I can help them sort of get to the next level. I've been helping lots of players online, still really enjoying that process. It's getting a little bit busier, so if you're interested in that and getting in before it's totally booked up, you can just check the link below. It's a nice option because you could be at your spot, your house, in a sim, in a net, at the range, even on the course, and I can give you a feedback as you're going through, making sure you're on the right track for you. So that's really important when it comes to golf. Obviously, lots of ways to do it. It's usually pretty hard to change patterns once you're sort of into it, once you sort of feel comfortable with it. So you want to make sure you're getting good feedback and pushing things in the direction that are going to help you play better. So into today, we're looking at, get the glove on here, looking at the start of the backswing and some faults that I've seen recently, and what the tour players are doing and what's important when we're looking at the start of the takeaway. So specifically with an iron today is what we're talking about. So as I get set up in here, making sure obviously setup's good. At some point I'll go really in depth into that, but as we're starting the backswing, we want to make sure that as we're taking it away, the body first is in a good position. So referencing back to the setup, if I'm started too much over, okay, so you see all the tour players, in a nice athletic setup, not too bent over. If I'm too bent over at the start, I'll usually go right back to what my natural standing posture is. So I'm going to put up a visual of a player that I was teaching this week, sort of started too bent over, and instantly, as they started back, they started to stand up, okay? So when you start in a compromised position, meaning my pelvis bend is too much, my chest bend is too much, so meaning how tipped over I am, what the body's going to typically do is naturally find where you're comfortable. So say this is my comfortable, I start here, instantly I'm in an upward motion. Typically that also leads to the club getting a little bit too flat, the shoulders getting a little too flat. Misleading topic, I think, because players, one of the players in particular, he was instructed before to try to stay and keep the shoulders down, but the reasons the shoulders went flat is because he changed his spine, right? So if I'm here and I rotate, or if I'm going into this direction and rotating, you can see how different that's going to make my shoulders look. And it's important, if I can start in that good setup position in that first move, making sure that I'm not going down and up too much, okay? Because if I'm going from a too bent over position right into this motion, again, club's going to be out of position. We're going to have to put some different sort of forces into the club, not the most optimum, to get it back into position, where at the start of the swing, if I can do a really good job, the club's not really moving fast yet, right? So as the club gets moving faster as I'm going back, and then as I'm coming down, it gets harder to change things. So if we're making the change early in the swing, it's going to be a lot easier going forward. So getting set up in there. So for this player, the first thing was making sure the posture was good. And then as they went back, encouraging them, I had my hand right here on their hat, encouraging them to make sure that they weren't moving away from the ball. So standing up taller versus too much bends, so getting in a nice neutral position. And then as they were taking that club back, they were staying right against my hand here, so that spine wasn't going to change, and the nose wasn't going to move away from the ball. That also calmed down what the wrists were doing. As they were standing up before with momentum, the wrists usually would fling the club around them and get it a little bit too far behind them. So when we're looking at tour players there in that first move, you're going to see most of them with an iron, as they start back, their spine might even go down just a little tiny bit, and their hands are going to go down, again, very, very small amount to very level. You don't typically see them change their body position very much in the start of the swing. So one reference that I like to use is, as we're going back with an iron, the hands are staying sort of under the hip. If the hands are moving, so for this player, sort of up and quickly away with the chest, right? If the chest moves back, that also pulls the hands up. Hands getting higher than the hip. It's going to make it a lot harder in that transition to get into a good spot. So in that setup position, as I go back, first starting with good posture, second making sure that my hat isn't moving away from that ball, and then just starting with little swings with that sensation that I'm not going down and up in that first move. So being down too much and then going up, I'm starting a little taller and then making sure I just stay there in that first, starting in the backswing. I always recommend doing the half swings first and then sort of working into fuller swings from there. So going for drills, so for that player, the drill that we'd use would be, if you're at home, you know, just putting your head against the wall, getting in the good posture first. I would say like on the corner, okay, of a wall, versus like a flat wall, because the corner is going to allow you still to swing the club back. One other way I like to do it is, if I have a golf cart, just get on the corner of the golf cart, start the club back without your head moving off that golf cart or that corner of the wall as you start back, and you'll start to feel some probably different muscles helping you with that motion. Okay, so that's how we're going to address that first sort of fault at the start of takeaway. Expanding a little bit more, players that are trying too hard to stay into that good start of the backswing without the head moving, I've also seen them go into, as they start back. So this player, good posture, Ian Fraser from TXG, one of my good buddies, I was teaching him a little while ago, and we were working on, based on his 3D, and again, like, this is a very common pattern, that's why I'm talking about it. As he started back, his goal was to keep the head sort of more still, and his effort, and I've seen some other players do this, he was actually tilting his left ear down, so he's adding left side bend to his neck, and for him, that made the club elevate really early in the backswing, okay? So this is the second fault when it comes to a good start of the backswing. So this player, Ian's in a good setup. As he was going back, he's adding that tilt here, and what that did was it shortened his lead side, and then that would actually make the hands go up. Again, the reference of the hands staying under sort of the belt buckle here at the start of the backswing, hands sort of in line with that right pocket as I start back. For me, as a right-handed player, for him, head tilts, hands go up. Another similar idea is the left shoulder. Even if the head doesn't tilt, if the left shoulder sort of goes down, trying to keep my head still, you're going to see the same thing. The hands are instantly going to elevate. The width is going to get really limited. You're going to lose a lot of space. So as I go back here, I'm making sure that my eye line stays level and my hands can reach, versus if my eyes tip, you can see how my eyes look here, versus if I can keep this left eye, for me as a right-handed player, level, and I do that first move, it's going to be a lot easier. And you see how long my left arm would look. If I go this way, that's going to really shorten my left arm, because that's adding a little bit of lead side bend too much as I'm starting that backswing. So that's going to factor into what the club face does. Usually this tendency is, if I go this way, club face is probably going to end up too shut, and then sometimes from there it's going to be a lot harder to rotate and get width to the top of the backswing. So setting you up for success, starting with the easy, and then we can build into more complex ideas, but again, starting with the easy. So going eye line level as I start back, hand still under the pocket, same first move key, just a different reference point as we're starting back. Lead shoulder isn't diving down, okay? Head is not tilting, and then I'm getting into that nice first move. And then it was, for Ian, we did it where we get into that nice first move, sort of hold, and then chip it out there. And that was a great way to start, because once you recalibrate, okay, that first move is when it's recalibrated and I'm here, there's gonna be some majorly different feels coming through impact, okay? Again, you're not having to react as much to where the club is and where the force is going, where the face is, right? We're making it as simple as we can. Get here and then just unwind the body through impact to get you into a pretty good impact position, okay? If we're expanding this a little bit more, looking specifically at the hand height, okay, in backswing now. So say we're doing a good job with setup, so that's sort of step one, setup. So as we go back, we don't have to stand up because our posture is compromised. Step two is making sure our bends and our tilts, neck and lead side, aren't adjusting too much at the start of backswing. Again, two sort of areas that I've seen lots of players, in the effort to keep the head still, sort of go that way at the start. The third way I've seen is as we're going back here, the first move, they start back, good job with the posture, head's not moving, head's not tilting, but they're lifting their hands because their arm position is starting to bend, especially their right or trail elbow in that first move just starts to lift the club up. So the club goes into a quick up motion, and then we're narrow and sort of bunched up, and then it's gonna be hard to get the width back. Obviously that's gonna put this trail arm a lot more behind sort of my shoulder and my chest, which is gonna make it wanna extend out. Typically get the club this way. When it goes that way, good players usually would go this way. Higher handicaps usually would go this way. So again, setting you up, it's gonna be a lot harder to be successful from that sort of out of position early in the backswing. So for this type of tendency, what we're doing is still good posture, good lead side, and as we're going back, just picturing, we're just doing, and I shot a video on this last week, the idea that, you know, it's a very simple one. I'm pushing that ball back, but I'm doing it more with my stomach and my chest and my lead shoulder, right? And you can see, reference sort of the arm position. I'm not letting this actually go like this, right? I'm still having a little bit of tension with my chest here as I'm going back, not pinned, but just a bit of tension. You can see how my trail shoulder moves out of the way, and that helps the club get into a really good spot here as I take it back. If I wanted to add a little more complex idea to this, and I've sort of referenced these in some other videos, is as I'm doing that exact same drill, start with a little pressure on my lead foot, let it drift to my trail foot, and then sort of use my push off my trail foot to help that momentum push that ball back. The funny thing about golf, right, is it's so easy to make this game really hard, and sometimes it's hard to make it really simple. So you're watching this drill, it's like, oh, this is the easiest drill ever. So he's in there, sort of little pressure left, drifting to the right, using that momentum to push the ball back. Even though that's a very simple looking move, some players that can take, you know, like 100, 200 reps to get it to be that smooth where they feel natural in that first move, okay? So as I keep going, so same motion, I'm just doing this drill over and over, little left, hit the right foot, and then I'm pushing that ball back using momentum of my pivot, okay? So everyone's a little different. This would be, I would go more onto low thought, more athletic, versus the other two are gonna be a little more conscious in how you're managing your posture, and then two, your tilts, okay? So that one you gotta be a little more conscious of. This one I would call it more athletic, so a little pressure lead side. As I drift to my right foot, I'm pushing and letting my body momentum open up or turn my back to the target to help that club get in a good position, get a little more width in those arms, okay? From a movement standpoint, things that might make these tendencies hard, the one that really sticks to mind here is as I'm going back, the takeaway is my lead hand reaching across my body. If I have a tough time just having my lead hand and reaching across my body, the first move of takeaway is going to be tough, okay? So we're going to have to find, so basically this shoulder is going to reach around, that's like protraction of the shoulder around my body, around my chest to get me into that good first move. If I have a tough time reaching, sometimes this might be easier, sometimes this might be easier, okay? So understanding how you move and relating to the swing is going to be important. Got some exciting stuff in the future that we'll be able to reference that for you. But right now, we're just looking at, can I reach this arm around my body and then match that same feeling as I'm pushing that ball straight backwards, okay? And then you do that a couple times, and then you'd move into the exact same feeling. Get this ball right behind. I got it basically almost touching my club here at address. So I'm here, get that little pressure left, and then get that momentum to help me take that club back. Makes it really easy to put that into a full motion. So depending on your tendencies, depending on what sort of direction you go, again, keeping your head still is a noble idea, but how you do it, how you're achieving it, are other parts of your swings getting compromised because of that idea, I think is you know, one to really make sure that you're aware of. I'm never really thinking I got to keep my head still. I'm thinking I have to move efficiently being as I go from my left foot to my right foot, my arm reaches across my body. And you can see right now I'm not thinking, oh, I have to keep my head still. I'm letting momentum help me when I'm using the ground, that's going to stabilize me, right? Using my stomach, using my reach, but I'm never thinking I have to stay stagnant, okay? So I think if you feel like you're moving around too much, you feeling still might be the right thing. For most people, being too stagnant at the start of the backswing is going to lead to either that arm, going to lead to that tilt, or maybe they don't move much and then eventually they're trying to sort of yank the club to the top of the backswing. All those things, I hope you have a better awareness of how to start your backswing better. When the club is traveling slower, it is way easier to make a swing change than when it's traveling faster, pre-impact or in the downswing. I hope this helps. If you need any more help for your game, make sure you check the description below. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to sharing more with you in the upcoming weeks.